I don't know if that was how you white balance, but yeah, so my friend, shout out to Layla, told me about white balancing. So that was what I was attempting to do there. I don't actually know how to white balance. She just said put a white sheet in front of the camera before you start filming. I don't know if that did anything. However, hello! Welcome back to my channel. That is the first time I can officially say it because this is only my second video. Today's video, I want to talk about the pros and cons of taking a gap year because, as some of you might know, I'm in the middle of a gap year and I just think when I was younger I would never have considered even taking a gap year. I'm obviously taking mine during a pandemic, so that's not ideal because I can't travel the globe like I had planned to originally. But I still do think that this gap year is going to have been valuable, hopefully, with something to show for it. Yeah, I might make a video about my own gap year at some point, if that's something anyone's actually interested to know about. But today I'm just going to talk about the pros and cons of a gap year. Maybe help you decide if that's something that you might want to do. Pros. Number one, you get to save up money. That is obviously assuming that you work. And I think a lot of people kind of perceive that a gap year probably requires a lot of money from your family. I just want to say, like, that is so not the case. I've always worked. Well, right now I'm not working. Let's just pretend that's not a truth. That is true. You can totally fund a gap year yourself. My plan was to save up for a little bit and then go and actually work abroad. So that is an option. You can still travel and go abroad. Travel and go abroad. Travel and make money. There are ways to do both at the same time. There are ways to do one and then the other. So for example, I took a TEFL course earlier in the year, a few months ago, 6 months ago. TEFL stands for Teaching English as a Foreign Language, and you can take them online. So I did a 120-hour one, which obviously if you're not in a gap year, that's a lot of time to commit to something. 120 hours, if you were doing that alongside being a full-time student or having a full-time job, you would be like probably giving up your weekends and a lot of your evenings to try and get it done. But technically in a gap year I could do it like a full-time job. So I was studying it for I think 3 weeks maybe, and I know people who have done it in less. But yeah, that all started with just talking to one of my friends who'd done a gap year the year before, and she'd worked in Vietnam as an English teacher, and I just thought, you know what, that sounds like a really cool way to spend a gap year. You know, live in a foreign country, you actually get to really know it because you're living there, you're mixing with the people, you become like an expat. But yeah, I mean, you can save up money as well as being abroad, and because the cost of living in somewhere like that is so low, even though you're being paid less than you probably would doing a full-time job in your home country, you end up actually saving as much, if not more, still having money to travel, probably working less hours. It just sounds pretty good. Okay, if you want work experience, a gap year is a great way to do it. So this is something that, if you know what you want to do, it's something very specific, like for example medicine. Med school's not easy to get into if you don't have any work experience to speak of, and if I didn't have work experience, that's probably what I'd be focusing my gap year on. If you're wanting to study something like art and you need to get a portfolio together, just build your portfolio, that kind of thing. Or, you know, basically anything. Pro number three, it's a great way to spend your time if you don't know what you want to do. I think there's too much of a culture in the Western world to like go to university as soon as you finish school, or to go straight from your degree into a job, and that's not necessarily the best way to go. If you've always known what you wanted to do, for example nursing, and you go to uni for like a vocational degree, you leave that degree and it gives you a job. That makes sense, I guess. But if you don't know what you want to do, you don't have to decide straight away. The thing is, with the British system in particular, you decide what you want to do when you're like 15, 16. You choose your subjects around that, you sit those exams, and then you apply for university, you go to university, you get a job. And then you're in that job for like the rest of your life. Whereas if you take some time to actually think about what you want to do, or even just considering something else. I mean, I've known I wanted to do medicine for a really long time, but there was a period of time, maybe last year, where I was like, is this what I want to do? Have I even like given it the time of day to think about it so that I don't regret it later down the line? Just think about it. Consider your options. Discover other things. Maybe you'll end up working a full-time job during your gap year, and not only will you save up money, but you'll discover a totally different avenue that you hadn't considered before. Pro number 4, if you want to travel, it's the time to travel. You've got kind of nothing tying you down, you don't have a mortgage, you're not tied to a lease, you don't have any real reason to have to be in one place. And if you want to travel, without sounding really cheesy and cliche, I'm not going to say find yourself, but you can definitely meet people you would never meet otherwise. Put yourself in situations you're not necessarily comfortable in, and those are the times that you get to know yourself really well. What you like, what you don't like, things that you're willing to try that you maybe hadn't thought of. Go to a cookery class, you know, cliff dive, I don't know, hike. I think the times that I've been travelling, particularly when I've been travelling on my own, I have made some of the best friends that I ever have made, that have stuck in my life and live in random corners of the world, some of which I've been to, some of which I've not yet. But, you know, it's even more incentive to travel because I get to see those people again. Yeah, I don't want to say soul searching, but you do find out so much about yourself when you travel. And so that is my big thing about a gap year. Obviously mine has turned out a little bit different because these unprecedented times have led to me not being able to travel. But, you know, it's fine. Yeah. Number 5, taking time out of education is good for the soul. I really believe that. You go from starting your education when you're 4 or 5 in this country anyway, and you go through school. You go from school to college or university. You go from university into your job. Even if you don't, the chances of you not being taught something on a regular basis between the ages of 4 or 5, it's a crazy, crazy concept that you're literally learning for like 18, 19 years of your life non-stop. And you don't ever give your mind a break, give your like body a break. I went through uni always having a part-time job until my last semester, in orchestra, on committee, writing for the newspaper. I'm not saying everyone lives it like that, but I was like, go, 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 go. And then it got to this point, and now I've just kind of like come to a complete halt. It drives you a bit insane, but it also helps you find your kind of equilibrium. Number 6, this isn't really a thing, but like, yeah, what is the rush? Why do you feel like you have to go into your career right now when you're going to be there for probably the next 50 years of your life until you retire? 50 years. Even if you have a career change at some point, which, you know, a lot of people do. I actually went to a conference last year when I was at my old job called Human to Hybrid, and they were talking about how now the statistic is that people will have 17 different jobs in their lifetime across 5 different, what is the word? Like career spaces. I can't remember the exact terminology and it's just gone from my brain. It'll probably come back. Like, millennials are now at the point where you're working for a really long time until you retire, and then that's when you stop and you finally have like all this time to yourself to kind of do what you want. I just don't see why people want to get into that right now. What's the big rush? Unless you're, and I know a lot of people who are really settled and kind of have a mortgage and have a life partner and or pets, and like I won't be getting a dog anytime soon because I see myself traveling for most of my 20s and I love dogs. Where am I going with this? Cons. So what are the cons then of taking a gap year? Because I'm not sitting here being like, you should take a gap year because, you know, not taking a gap year is silly. No, that's so not what I'm trying to say. Gap years are not easy. They're kind of considered to be, or maybe there's this like stigma around a gap year that it's kind of like what you do if you don't want to make plans, but actually not making plans during a gap year is so hard. So number 1, this just in, gap years are hard if you don't plan them. Yeah, I'm like halfway through my gap year now. I keep making plans and they keep falling through, but if I hadn't made any of those plans, I wouldn't be in London right now. You have to have a plan or else you will go insane. You're like, okay, what am I doing with my life? Why didn't I start uni? And I have even thought that, even though I've got plans in my head, rough plans, we'll call them loose plans, because, you know, you can't really plan things during a pandemic, but if you don't have any plan, then you don't know what you're working towards. You have to have an idea of what you want to have achieved from your gap year before you go to uni. And so this could be anything. You want to have travelled, you want to have made new friends, you want to have gotten work experience that's going to help you while you're at uni, have saved up enough to put down a deposit on a flat and get a mortgage. You want to... there's just so many things. Maybe you just want to know how to do the whole adulting thing and like learn to cook and learn to do your laundry properly and learn to like sew. Like, I haven't sewed once in my 23 years of life, so I don't know what I'm talking about, but you know what I mean. Maybe there's just things that you want to have achieved. You have to plan it so that you actually achieve those things. Number 2, it can seem like a bit of a waste of time. Kind of like, well, why am I spending this time not pursuing that? But, you know, life experience goes a long way, so you're gonna learn things that are gonna be transferable into other things, and they're, you know, they're gonna help you in ways that you can't even know right now. Everything you're doing is going to help you in the future, and so that's why I don't think that it is a waste of time. However, maybe for you it will be. I don't know. Maybe a gap year for you is like postponing something that you know will happen. Number 3, it can be really hard not having a schedule. If you're traveling, if that's what you decide to do, you're probably not going to have a daily routine because you'll be in different places or moving around relatively regularly. It's hard to have kind of a rounded life. I know when I travel for any length of time, whenever it's a longer period of time and I'm not working, normally I am working when I travel. So I've done like summer camp and I've done an internship in Canada. When I travel afterwards, normally for like 2-3 weeks, by the end of those 2-3 weeks I'm thinking, okay, I'm ready to be at home now and to wake up at an acceptable time every day and to kind of having your kitchen with all your kind of regular stuff that you use every day. There's no point when you're traveling buying all your spices. I'm not saying everyone cooks like that, but you know what I mean. When you're traveling, you don't have all of the things that make you feel like you have an actual like life. You just have kind of like a very select few number of items. A very select few items. Why does that sound so wrong? I might have forgotten grammar since I've been out of education for this many months. However, yeah, you don't have a schedule if you're traveling. That's kind of why I was thinking I would go and teach English. You get paid for it, you're not working that many hours to be honest. It's a very chilled out job to have. You still get to travel, but you still have some sort of routine, a place that you have to be at a certain time, which isn't probably what a lot of people with class is traveling, but that's how you like understand a place and like get to know the culture properly and get to know the people. I feel like I'm rambling and it might not make a lot of sense anymore. If you watched my last video, my flatmate got me these cards for my birthday in this mindfulness toolkit. I love it. So I'm picking one every week that relates to what I've been talking about. Today I'm gonna go with find your fire. I just think that's quite a good summary of what you can do in a gap year. Whether it's working out what you want to do, seeing the world, discovering a new passion, trying a new hobby. I hope this video helps someone decide if a gap year's for them. Maybe even consider it when they hadn't considered it before. Bye y'all.